Yeah, that I don't remember all the details, but I know at that time, probably starting in 82, 83 is when the issue about animal research was coming into being more with the young people, and it was like in the magazines, and it was you'd you'd see it on the news occasionally. And I remember there were some things that were happening around 84 that I hadn't I don't have any recollection of or pictures from, but I think that was one of the bigger ones that was organized at the time. There was different kinds of speakers around in different places, and at that time, as you know, it was just pamphlets and flyers. There was no internet, but we were all pretty excited about going to that one because that's something that we were just learning about more and thought it would be important to take part in it. And I know many of us in the group of different, the community of like-minded thinkers, we went down there, and I had no idea it would be so big. I remember that I was pretty surprised about how many people were there. And when we got there, there was a line of police kind of, I mean, I don't remember all the details, but I remember there was a line of police already there, telling us you can't be here, you can't be here. And it was a little bit chaotic because we didn't know what we were going to be doing, or we had been told before. There was a pre-rally communication. I don't remember when or where, but I remember they told us about the 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 plan. If you're going to be involved in this, it was going to be passive resistance. So if you don't agree with it, you don't have to take part, be off to the side or something like that. So those who agreed with it realized that if it came down to it, we would be arrested for passively resisting. That was the idea, non-violent resistance. So we got tighter and tighter and tighter to block. Somewhere behind us there was the car entrance area that went apparently underground to where they had the labs and stuff. I don't know. I had never been there before. And we just got together, and I don't remember who the person was who was organizing it. It was someone that was well known in the community, and they kind of gave us the cues about, okay, move to the left, move to the right, stay together, don't let go, blah blah blah. If you have to drop to the floor, let them pick you up, etc. It was very well choreographed. But as a young person, it was very exciting to be taking part in something that we felt was really important. So that's what happened. We got the last warning: if you don't leave the area, you will be arrested. And next to me, there was Javi, and then the guy, Scott Poe, was on my other arm. And next to Javi, I believe, or on the other side, was what you never see in the picture is Jane Whelan from the Go-Go's. She was with us too. And she was really nice. And we were arrested. It was actually pretty peaceful arrest. I mean, we didn't get knocked around. I mean, I guess maybe because there were so many of us and we weren't really fighting back. I'm sure if we had done anything, they would have made salsa out of us. But we just, they just kind of grabbed us and said, okay, everyone in the line, and they pushed us down. We actually went down into that hall and into some other hallway under like a bunker underneath the place. And they kept us all basically in some big room, as almost like a hallway, with our what are they called, the plastic ties on our, instead of I'm thinking in Spanish. I'm completely in Spanish mode right now. But yeah, we had the handcuffs on for I don't know how many hours we were there, maybe 2, 3, 4. I don't remember. It's so long ago, but we were there for quite a long time, and we were talking. And Jane Whelan was right next to us. She was very sweet, very friendly. We talked about music or something, and then at one point, they kept coming in to tell us what was happening with the negotiations, and like some of us will be convicted and blah blah blah. And I guess because there may have been some other things happening outside, but eventually, at one point, someone came in and said they're going to let you go, but you have to sign this waiver to, I don't know what it was that we had to sign. And after midday or after many hours, they let us go. And I guess that went on our record somewhere in some way, but we weren't actually convicted of the crime as it was originally set out. But yeah, that was it. And that was the picture of me being taken away with my dreadlocks and my little hand painted jacket that ended up on that cassette. Um, I think it has. I think it has made a dent in the consciousness about this particular issue. I'm not going to be able to give you specific points. I mean, based on my experience growing up and from a young man to an old man, and what I've seen all in between, I think, yes, there were some significant things that had changed. For example, at one point in the 80s, we started to see manufacturers of makeup, of particular cleaning products, start to come out with a cruelty-free stamp or some kind of insignia, which was, I think, based upon all that movement. It wouldn't have come out if we had all been just sitting home and, playing guitar. There was a reason why those things came out. And at that time, right after that, I noticed over the years, there had been a lot of more talks about it, more forums, more ads, full page ads, and some magazine or newspaper about animal exploitation in the factories and all that stuff. So I think it did have a lot of impact. And up till today, even now, where I'm not even in the US, there is for many people, it's of interest to have products that are not tested on animals. And I think it's directly related to that movement. It just wasn't, of course, something that originated in California. It was many places on the globe, and especially in Europe and England and all that. It was happening. It was like a match had lit and the fire started, and after that, there was a consciousness of it, just like many issues. So yeah, I think it had been important, and I think it continues today. I don't think it obviously hasn't solved the issue, no, but I think it's probably better than it was before, but it can easily go back to the way it was, very simply. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. That's a difficult one because the term activist is wide. It's really wide. Some people are activists in a way that other people would never think about doing, maybe direct action or being involved physically with, I don't know, removing, I don't know, equipment that has to do with animal exploitation and going to jail for it, or being jailed repeatedly. And other people, they're activists by means of information, by teaching, by being progressive in a different way, actually by becoming teachers, by becoming professors, yeah, and being part of the system, which all of us are a part of, and promoting those ideas. For example, like here in Chile, during the social explosion last year, there was this new thing about burning down churches. Everyone was burning, the churches were all burning down, and I understand the anger behind it, but to me, even if it's a meat market, I think you have a lot more power and a lot more probability of getting things done by educating. So educate someone, or ask if they want to be educated first. You can't always educate by force. That's something we learn by history, not just this movement, but in history and governments. Education by force doesn't work. You end up with a totalitarian fascist type of system. And I think by standing, if someone's really adamant about getting the idea across about not eating meat, then do the fucking work. Get outside, make your flyers, and now you have internet, put it on your little Facebook thing, and get out and stand there every day in front of the meat market and start talking to people. And you'll probably get more people to think about what you're talking about, like we used to do. And maybe you even remember back in the 80s, we used to, have little flyering campaigns and stands and stuff down in Venice Beach and things, because we were, but I'm not saying that was the best way to do it, but I think we got to more people. Out of every 100, maybe 2 people said, let me check this out. This is interesting. And maybe you made an impact. But by throwing a bomb through a window where nobody has any idea what you're really talking about and burning the place to the ground is probably going to put more people out of work, make them more pissed off, and not even want to listen to you. They don't even care because now they don't have a job. So I think you got to be careful with the way you do, if you're going to do direct action, because there are consequences, because we all live in this capitalist system, which ain't going away anytime soon. We're in it. So you need to be really careful not to not just burn a bridge, but burn somebody else. And that's something I've seen in the US, when I was in Europe, and also here in South America. There's this that usually comes from the young ones. The young ones have this idea like burn it all down, which I understood. I'd say the same thing when I was young too. Burn the shit down. But it's like, Gandhi said, eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. So you got to be careful. I think you have to be careful, and you need to really be smart about it. And that's what I guess that's my point is, do your research. Now we have so much more access to research and information, that if you're going to be active, know what you're talking about, and also pay your own way. Don't be a vagabond, kind of one of these guys that just, or people who just goes from place to place with like mooching all the time off of other people and using their place and using their home and using their resources. And pay your own way, man. Get a job and then do your stuff that way. That was something that really irritated me about the scene, was the mooches, the people who didn't do anything for anybody except themselves and just lived off of everyone else. And it's like, oh God, I have to work my ass off since I was 16. What are you doing? So yeah, take care of yourself, take care of your body, and try to treat people with respect. Even if they're being disrespectful, you can still be respectful of them and then just say goodbye. I don't know if that my point is getting across or not, but that's my idea. Yeah, Naturecore was, well, I was in the AHC, America's Hardcore, in '83, and I was playing bass, and I was the last bassist of the band at the tail end of the existence of the group. So, and we were going to go, we were going to do touring. We were going to go do a split 12-inch record with Stalag 13, and I was really young. I was like, it's with Drew Bernstein, as many of you people know who Drew was. And it was exciting. It was the most exciting time that I had as a first exciting band that I was really in. I was in a band before that. We did a metal song on a Metal Massacre 3 with a compilation that had Slayer on it. So that was kind of cool. But as a punk band, America's Hardcore was an exciting movement for me because it was really well organized, and I learned a lot about making shirts and the whole DIY process. And Drew helped me with that. He was kind of like the big brother, and we were making shirts and stickers for everyone in LA, like everyone you name it. 7 seconds we were making. So we were doing fan mail and sending stuff out to all these bands, the stretch marks. And so I was really into it, and I went out and I borrowed a bass and I started playing bass. I was like really into it. I wanted to play guitar, but there was already a guitar. So anyway, long story not so short. Some of you may already know the band folded, and because we didn't go on tour right away, and we were planning to do a recording for Stalag 13 to do a split. It didn't happen because as we were practicing to get ready for this little tour and the split, Crucifix was in town, and they met Drew and they asked him if he would fill in with them on a few shows. And he told me, yeah, I'm going to fill in. I was like, cool, that's great, excellent. So he went on tour, did some shows locally, and then they went up north, then San Francisco, and then blah blah blah. And then after about, I don't know how long he was, he called me and says, yeah, I'm going to go to Europe with these guys. And then I was kind of getting worried. I was like, oh wow. So what happened to? He said, keep the thing going, keep the band going, keep the make sure that you get all the mail out to everyone, blah blah blah. So another part of this, to make it a little bit shorter, he joined Crucifix he called me from Finland, or I think it was Finland, somewhere in Northern Europe. He called me in December of '83 and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not coming back. The band's yours." I was like, "You can do whatever you want with the songs, keep them, record them, whatever. I'm staying with this band. Please make sure you get, take care of the mail and the silk screens." And I was a young kid. I was 16. I didn't know I had to take a bus all the way from the valley to go to North Hollywood to go to his house, where his parents had this set up in the garage. And I did it as long as I could. I even tried to get a singer for the band. I was writing in the Recycler newspaper, and I just didn't have, and back then it was difficult. I didn't have my own car, and I couldn't get the people I needed. Then the singer quit. He quit, and then that was like shit. So the singer, I needed someone to play guitar. I was going to play guitar, and I was going to have someone else play bass. And Aaron was the drummer, Aaron Glasscock, who was in Mad Society. So he was a well-known drummer. And he went off to do something else. So it just folded. And at that time, I was like, I got to start another band. I got to keep this momentum going. So just within months, I decided, okay, change the name, Naturecore. That's going to be it. But I don't have anybody to play. And then I met, and Sonny Sanders was a kid who used to come up to the garage where we were printing the silk screens with Drew for the America's Hardcore shirts and stuff, and 7 Second shirts. And he was always there just hanging out at the garage, and we exchanged numbers. So I had his number, and then I told him I wanted to start a band, and he said, "I play bass." Cool. And so he started coming to my apartment from Silver Lake. He came out to the valley, and on a bus, of course, took him like 500 hours to get there with the bass. And we started writing songs. Him and I were like the kind of the motor of it. And then he introduced me to Aaron Spursky, who at the time was really young, like 14. And because he was in Armistice, and Armistice, I guess, had broken up or was breaking up at the time. Actually, I saw Aaron at an Armistice show. I think it was Iconoclast and Armistice, and Tony Santiago was on bass. And I remember looking at that drummer, and I said, "I need that drummer. That guy's amazing." And that's when Sonny introduced me to the guy. So yeah, then we started playing in Pasadena, the three of us in a garage, and we practiced like almost every weekend. I was basically the mule of the group because no one had any transportation. So I drove from the valley to Pasadena every weekend, or if we could. And it was a lot of work. It was a labor of love. But I still had that thing from the previous year with Drew, like, had this kind of really DIY attitude. Like, you want to do it, do it. Don't rely on other people. Get your shit done. So I did it. I bought my car right before that. I was making payments on it. I was busting my ass working. And basically we practiced and eventually a year passed by, and we couldn't find a singer. We went through a whole string of people who didn't work out. And it wasn't until '86 that we met Tam. We passed out little flyers at some party and looking for a singer, and she picked it up and she called me. And from there, we started practicing with her. But unfortunately, it just bad luck, I guess. Every time we were going to get it together enough to do a show, something happened. There was cancellation. And so we ended up doing that one big show in wherever the hell it was, Anaheim. I don't even remember where it was, with Final Conflict and Porno Sponges. And I don't even remember the other band. That was a big deal because finally we got to start, and I thought it was going to continue from there. But I was going 2 days later. I was already booked to go to England for 2 months. But I thought that'll be fine. When I come back, we'll start over. But I stayed for 6 months in England. And then I went over into Europe. I was all over Italy and Germany and all that. So I was promoting Naturecore on a cassette with everyone, and I already met, because we did those recordings with Medical Melodies, and we knew Karma Sutra through pen pals, and what was it, Culture Shock? No, Culture Shock. Yeah, it was Culture Shock. It wasn't Citizen Fish yet. I had all those contacts, and they all knew about Naturecore, and people seemed to really like it. And I was excited. And when I came back, I was kind of a different person in many ways, but I wanted to play. And when I came back, there was nothing. Everyone was like, phew. It was like it was like the restaurant closed and the janitor was in there sweeping. Like, where is everybody? Oh, they're in school. They got a new girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. They're disappeared. Everyone was gone. I got back right after the crash, the depression in 87, or just turned eight. I don't remember when it was, in October of 87 or something in the US. And there was just nobody was interested. Everybody was doing something else in that short little half of a year. People just completely cut their their roots or interests and did something else. And that was a lesson for me. Is like, so whenever you're doing something, or if you want to do action, or you want to be an activist, you want to do projects, be consistent, because once you lose that little thread, people drift off, or you drift off somewhere else, you go into something else. So yeah, that was the end of at least that version of Naturecore. We did get back soon. We got back and we played another show at Bebop Records with, I don't remember who it was, in Reseda. And that was cool. But we had Tony Santiago on vocals, and my friend Mike Alvord, who was famous for his playing in Holy Terror, who now has another hot metal band called Mind Wars. He was an excellent addition to the group. So we were playing other stuff though. We were doing some acoustic stuff. We did an acoustic version of a Bad Religion song. And then we got a new bassist because the bassist didn't want to play. And we did a recording. Most people didn't hear it, unfortunately. We were still using the name Naturecore, but then we changed it right in the middle and we called it Black Apple Forest for whatever reason. At the moment, it sounded like it was a good name. It was not just another silly name. But it had Tony on vocals, Sanders was still on bass, Aaron played drums, I played guitar, and Tam was nowhere. And Tony Santiago sang. And we played the show as Naturecore too. We were gonna play. And I was still excited, but people started saying, yeah, but it's not just Naturecore, because the songs were a little bit more melodic. Everyone was changing at that point. All punk bands were going at mid 80s, 87, 88. Everyone sounded more melodic, or they were doing stuff that they didn't do before. But the one song that was on the Naturecore 12-inch, that acoustic-y song, that was kind of also what we were doing. That was an acoustic song originally. So it wasn't like we were doing completely different stuff. We had some kind of jazzy, funky, stuff too. But apparently it didn't go over well with the old core people. Like we were invited. Lance from what was that name? The band up north, San Francisco. He was in a band, a well-known band. Lance. Yeah, he contacted me, of course, through mail, or he called me, and he was like really interested because they were doing a show, I guess, at Gilman, and they wanted, we'd like to see Naturecore come down here and play with, I don't know who. Yeah, cool. I was excited. And then I wrote to him, or called him, I wrote to him and said, yeah, we're just about changing the name now, but we're going to also be doing some acoustic stuff. We do a lot of acoustic stuff with 2 12 strings and blah, 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 and a fretless bass. And like the next day, he gets back to me. I think he called me back because it would a mail probably would have taken too long. And he says, "I'm sorry, but we're not interested in a acoustic Naturecore, or like a melodic version of the old band. We want the original band." I was like, I felt like I was dealing with one of these record executives who don't want to be flexible with their musicians. And I remember feeling, I was pissed. I was really annoyed. I was like, really? So we're almost the same band and we're going to be doing some of the old stuff, but he said, no, that doesn't sound good. It was like a kick in the stomach. I was really disappointed. And at that point I was bummed at him. I was like, okay, all right, well, thank you, bye-bye. And that was it. And he never talked to me again, just wrote me off. I was like, so I told the band, we're not going because we're not punk enough. It's like I wasn't punk enough. I'm like, fuck. So, and that's the kind of stuff that disappoints me in any scene, when you get judged in that way. I think it's just too harsh. So we didn't get to go up there. I was really excited, man. I want to go up there because I had previously met with Tim Johannen. Tim Johannen and Martin Sprouse. They were really nice. They really liked the Naturecore record that had come out a little bit after, so they were, they would have been hip to it. They would have been cool to it, I think. but we didn't get to go anywhere with it. So at that point, we changed. The drummer quit, the bass player quit, and there I was like, fuck. So we looked for a new drummer, a new bassist. We had various bass players, various drummers, and we tried to do some more stuff, but it just kept falling apart because everyone was just, threads got so thin, they left. And Aaron went off to play with more rock bands, and kind of, Aaron was always into more like Grateful Dead style kind of stuff at the time. And Sanders went off to college to study, and I was still in college. I was in the community college system for a million years. And yeah, it just kind of petered out, as they say, unfortunately. And I never got to do the project that we wanted to do with that band. So there it is. So then, of course, the album was an afterthought after the cassette was done, when Sean Mutaki had come to me and asked about putting out the vinyl. I was like, yeah, great. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to it, but sure, it'd be fantastic. And we got to put out those two things on the vinyl. Yeah. I, it's difficult to say. Like a lot of it I've mentioned already, I think. I think there was a lot of kind of tribalism, inner tribalism, kind of conflicts, and I think people, and I'm including myself in this, definitely. I think people took themselves too seriously. I mean, the whole, when people got real PC, I mean, there's always limits to it, but I think people turned it into a religion in many ways. And for me, I don't. That was something I was trying to get away with, get away from. You know, that's why at the time, well, I did understand it, but I mean, there are a lot of punks who looked at other groups. For example, I'm just using a band that everyone knows, like Fugazi. You never saw Fugazi walking around with mohawks or, special things that made them stand out, because they were doing something a little different. They weren't singing Discharge lyrics. But even if they were, there were a lot of bands also in Europe that did that style of music, maybe kind of in your face political stuff, but they had a really toned down image. And I think we got caught up in the image, whether it was the spiked hair, or the patches, or this whatever, all the stuff, my leather jacket painted with Neos and 7 seconds on. I think all of that was important to give ourselves a bit of an identity. But I think a lot of it had to do with us being young and looking for an identity, and being able to or feeling like we needed to identify with something, because for whatever reason, everyone had a different reason to do it. And it wasn't many years, when I was 20 years after that or something, I had a girlfriend who told me, she looked at me, and she says, she wasn't political at all, but she said to me, I don't like people who feel that they need to express themselves through shocking people through their clothes or something like that. And had you said that to me when I was 18 or 19 or 20, I would have had a different reaction. But I was like, I know what you mean. I totally understand it, because she was always outside of that situation. And I think that's a part of the mistakes, is we all took ourselves a little bit too seriously. We turned it into almost a religion and a mantra. And people who were outside of that thinking were ostracized or pushed out or not accepted. I'm not saying everyone did that. It's just some things that I saw. There were certain groups and kind of cliques that were formed, and some people were, there were certain groups in my community that were really into, actually some of them were into like doing martial arts and stuff, which was something I didn't do, but I thought that was cool, but they were really into that, and that was their thing. And there were others that were into beer. To me, that was another thing to me, that the drugs and the alcohol to me was just, I was not flexible on it. I tried to hang with them. I tried to be friends with them. But I always felt I was just hitting myself against the wall, because I noticed that I felt, my own personal opinion was that their idea of the movement was the same as it was in the 70s and 60s. And they're just hippies. maybe their hair was straight up, but after they took a shower, it was long. And they just wanted to party. And I think you know what I'm saying. I'm not putting down people who spike your hair. Obviously, I know who you are. But it was like, that was their substance. I didn't get anything else from them, as they were just stoners, and I didn't deal well with stoners. That's why I wanted Naturecore was, for me, was something different, at least in my personal view. Whether the other guys in the band followed that, which usually wasn't the case, was something else. But for me, I just wanted to get away from that. I wanted to get away from that whole, like, just like, I don't know, it was like Jeff Spicoli of punk rock, the beers and the drinking and hanging out and smoking. It was like, fuck this. That to me was a mistake, because then there was no movement. It was just another fad to me in that sense. I mean, I appreciate people who actually did something with their lives. When I did go to England, I met a lot of people who were, people we really liked in bands, like, Dick Lucas and Karma Sutra. And they were just, what's the guy's name? Guy from Oi Polloi, Ramsey.
Oi Polloi is Dick, singer from Oi Polloi. Ramsey is Political Asylum.
That's it. Thank you. I met him. He was really nice. And these guys, they turned me on. They showed me something that I don't think we had much going on in the US at the time. They were all working, a lot of them working class guys. I don't know about him, but they showed me a side of them. They were working and doing projects and just getting involved in stuff. And I noticed that to me was where I felt most comfortable. I did eventually get to the Crass House. That was a huge thing for me to actually meet with them. And that's a whole other story. I could tell you about it because it's quite long, but they were workers, they were doing stuff for the community. They weren't just out there like spiking their hair and screaming anymore. They said, look, we got to make a living. We got to live. And they were doing, one of them was doing massage therapy. Another one was doing work in housing and painting. They were all doing stuff. And I was really impressed to see them. They had their shit together, as we say. And not everyone can have their shit together. I know that. And I'm not comparing everyone with Crass. They've got as many problems as any of us. But those people were inspiring to me in many ways. And there were some things that I saw in places in Europe and England that were disappointing too. I saw a lot of the just rock and roll, bong load, beer drinking hysteria as what I left behind there too, in many senses. When I was in Amsterdam, I saw a lot of that. I had a horrible experience with that band. Not that they did anything bad to me, total chaos. They were after I met so many really good people that I thought were doing good stuff with their lives and helping others, they just came in and they used the place. They left drugs and alcohol and bottles and trash and shit all over the place and just messed it up. And they really were total chaos. They just left a huge mess. And I was like, God, they were invited to stay here and they left all this. I remember just seeing all the garbage they left in the space. But that kind of stuff, I think the movement, the scene needs to avoid. And it's best to see people a little bit more with their stuff together. They've got to, and I guess another point I would like to make is like, if you're going to do something for social change yourself first. That's usually the most difficult thing, but go out and do some real work. That's why when I came back, I was like, fuck punk. Punk is about doing stuff. It's not about talking about doing stuff. So I got back and I was studying sociology and stuff. And I started working with the United Cerebral Palsy. I started working with people with cerebral palsy and different disabilities. And then I felt like, now this makes sense, because this is the stuff that needs to happen. We need to be involved in doing work with people, doing stuff, doing less, like when you're, doing your swimming training and all. I thought that's good work. That's important work, even though some people don't think that's important. It's important. If someone's going to be a lifeguard, that's important. But just hearing people talk about, collecting discharge shirts and it's just like, oh, fuck, come on. It's just, I love discharge shirts. I love buy punk shirts. I still play my guitar, but that's not the point. You know, I think it's important to get involved in the community. You want to walk the walk, then get out and start working with homeless if you can. Of course, if you're not homeless yourself, if you can, go out there and start doing something. You're not going to change the world. You might change just the world of one person, but if you can change or help that person get up off their feet, get onto their feet and do something productive, then I think, to me, that's action. That's like proof that some things work. And I had these conversations with a lot of people, especially Greg of Iconoclast at the time. When I came back, we had a long conversation, and I felt like I connected with him about this issue, about getting things going and just doing work. You know, a lot of us in the scene were from working class families. Some of us weren't. You know, some of us were from upper middle class, whatever. But it's about what you do with your life, and how you do it and how you treat people. And for me, getting involved with people and actually doing it. And when I knew of people who were going to nursing school or going to study whatever, political science, I think that was cool. Like Greg from Bad Religion, I really appreciate what he's done. You know, I mean, no matter what people think of the band being sold out or all that shit, actually, I'm really happy to see smart guys at least doing something, doing good music, and actually doing something to affect change, social change. Social change is really slow. So getting involved in a different way than what we did all in the early 80s is my main point about how to do things differently and to be careful.
Cool.